nothing was dissed. And I remember like, I thought it was fake. I was like, yo, how did they do this? Like, it's so clean, so colorful. Like everything was like perfectly outlined, you know, in my book. I was a toy, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. But it just looked so fresh and so clean. And I was like, that's what I want to do right here. So, you know, later, and I painted at the Panic Zone, you know, with different people and stuff like that, and everything was cool. But, you know, a lot of these places, it was just walking around and walking into them and getting inspired. You know, I remember, you know, I think the first time that I got like run up on so the first time I got run up, you know, like I said, I was living and growing up in Alhambra, and I had heard about this little Alhambra yard that was like near the Target or something like that. And so, actually, I don't even know if there was a Target then. Anyways, I just remember like where they told me it was at. So I go down there, and it was like a little tiny hill. You go over the Ivy, and then there was these two walls. It was kind of like an L shape. And there was a big electrical like generator or something that blocked on the left side, so no one could see you in that like pit area. And I remember seeing like Mural, STK, Angst, Key, FB, like all these pieces. And same thing. I had the same experience. I was like, yo, look at this. This is all fresh. Nothing was dissed. It was all like dope. And I remember I was there taking pictures with my little 110 camera. And as I'm doing that, you know, I see like 5 dudes just walking up the Ivy, you know, and I'm there by myself. And, you know, I was a scrawny little kid, you know, I was getting my ass kicked by 5 dudes any day. So I looked over and I'm like, oh man. And they're carrying chains, they're carrying crowbars, bats. And I was like, yo, what's going on? And so I'm just chilling. I'm like, I could probably run, you know, like, and that's the only thing I can get away with is running. But they hit me up and they're like, yo, where you from? You know? And I was like, I ain't from nowhere, you know? And then they're like, well, what are you doing here? I said, I'm just checking out the graph. And then it turned out that it was these dudes from STK. It was like Joe STK and Rail, Shock, Kane, a couple other dudes. And man, they just like, oh man, we thought you were from BSK. Because we had some beef with BSK or something like that. So they thought they were gonna jump me. They thought I was from some other crew. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm a Oneer. I'm like, you know, and they're like, what do they call you? I said, Man. They call me Man. And I had just done a spot in City Terrace the night before. And I remember Joe said, hey, we were going to do that spot last night. We drove up and we saw your name. He's like, you must have just done it. Because we had seen that spot earlier in the day, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I just hit it last night. And these are virgin walls back then, right? So these spots get hit like all the time now. But back then, I remember when I hit that spot, I was all happy. It was like, you know, it was probably toy looking, but I hit it. And so I remember they said, hey, you want to go chill tonight with us, you know? And I'm like, all these guys are from STK. Of course, I knew who they were, Sworn to Kill. They were like the Alhambra crew, you know? They were like the dudes. And so I was like, yeah. So they're like, we're going to kick it at Mural's pad. So why don't you come and chill? I'm like, dope. So I go. So that night, I meet Mural. Angst was there too. I met Angst. And, you know, Mural to me, just to put a sideline on this, but Mural is one of the most underrated like artists in LA. Like that dude, I remember first seeing his stuff on the streets and just being like blown away because he was always doing these black and white characters on the freeways, on illegal spots, and they were dope. And then his can control was like perfect, and then that fool could get down. So that night, I'm at Mural's pad. He whips out these sketchbooks, and I was like, yo, what is this? Like, I never seen anyone's sketchbook so dope. I mean, it was page after page after page, ballpoint, you know, full color with markers, you know, pencil drawings, the whole thing. Every page was different. And I was just like, man, this guy's dope, you know? And then that night they hit me up and they're like, all right, so are you down to be in our crew? And I was like, you know, I just met these guys. Like, I didn't know who they were or anything, but they were cool. I was like, yeah, I'm down. You know, I knew who they were. So I got into STK. That was the first crew I got into, you know?